Hello and welcome to this edition of Joy in Our Town. I'm Ann Farrell Tatey, your host, and today I'm delighted to welcome my guests, Kristen Hatfield and Lori Powers with the American Red Cross. Our topic today is public safety and our issue is emergency services and disaster relief. Thank you ladies for joining us today. How
Thanks
are y'all
for
doing?
having us.
Doing
Thank you.
well?
We're doing well.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the Red Cross. This organization has been around a long time. Tell us like your involvement with it and how long you've been here.
The American Red Cross, I kind of like to boast about how long we've been around, but we just celebrated our 135th birthday. We were founded, 135 years old. We were founded by Clara Barton in 1881. And just side note about Clara Barton, she founded us when she was 60 years old, approximately 40 years before women had the right to vote. So she's often referred to as the angel on the battlefield of the Civil War, but remarkable woman that has founded one of the largest humanitarian organizations in the world. And I'm glad to be a part of that. I'm about to celebrate my 10th anniversary with the American Red Cross, and Lori's been here even longer.
So how long have you been here?
That's right. I am getting ready to celebrate my 16th anniversary this month.
Wow.
So I've had a good broad experience with the Red Cross right here in Hampton Roads. So it's been really exciting.
Now, when people are with the Red Cross, do they transfer around to other properties, or do you pretty much stay in one place?
A lot of times we do have a very mobile workforce, and what's really neat about the Red Cross is that as a national organization, that's consistent services and consistent programs in all 50 states. So it really is a mobile position that you can take with you.
That's great. That's great. Now, I understand there are 5 arms of the Red Cross. Can you talk a little bit about what those are?
That's right. We've got 5 core services. So since 1917, right here in Hampton Roads, we have been performing all 5 of these services. We have disaster relief, of course, services to the armed forces and our veterans programs. We've got CPR and first aid training through our preparedness and health and safety services. We provide international support. That's doing things such as international disaster relief, as well as supporting some public health programs. And we also do blood services, of course, which is something that we see all over Hampton Roads quite a bit. So we encourage everybody to go out and give, and we'll talk about that just shortly.
Now, I know you said that it's consistent throughout the country, but like in our area, we have a lot of military. Is that
right.
so? If you're in Macon, Georgia, do they also have military services as well?
They sure do. With our military services program, we are an organization that we've made a promise through a charter with our U.S. government that says we are going to support our military through emergency communication services, but we also provide a continuum of care. So from the time that our men and women sign up for the military, all through their service years and their veteran years, Red Cross is there providing care.
Wow.
So no matter where you are or where your families are located, we are there for our military families.
So, and that's how it got started on the battlefield. So I guess you've really stuck to that core value.
We
That's
sure
fantastic.
have. We sure have.
So let's talk a little bit about fires, because you were saying that fires are a big part of what you do, tending to the people who have experienced that. How is that in this area?
It's quite a robust program. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have volunteers who are actually on call, who wait for the call from our dispatchers at 911 to go to families who have had a home fire and who have emergency needs. So when the fire department shows up, the first thing they ask is, do you need Red Cross assistance?
Oh, wow.
So when that happens and they say, yes, I need help, they dispatch our volunteers, arrive on the scene to meet them, no matter what time of day, 7 days a week.
So that's the fire department's job, is to contact you. That's who you're in touch with.
That is typically the first call, but quite often we'll also find that maybe a day later, 2 days later, those fire clients realize, you know what, I do have a need, and oftentimes they'll contact us directly.
So they let them know in that case. They'll say, here, if you don't need it now, you might need it later, and you can contact them.
That's right.
So tell me exactly, like, what are some of the services specifically that you help in those and with their needs?
We talk with the families and really look at what are your emergency needs? What do you need right now? And our
short-term
right
help.
now needs. And our goal is to get them somewhere safe. You know, we want to make sure if they don't have somewhere to go, because a lot of times people do have families or close friends in the area that they can stay with, but if they don't, the Red Cross can provide emergency shelter through hotel stays. If it is a larger fire, then we may find that we have to open up a shelter. So when you're
Oh,
talking about
wow.
apartment fires
Yeah.
and, when you're talking about volumes of people. But we're really looking at those emergent needs, whether it be shelter, clothing, food, some emergency medical care to include prescription eyeglasses,
Oh,
things like
yeah.
that. We also have mental health professionals as volunteers who are available to talk to the family should they need
Wow.
respite care as well.
So do you have arrangements with local hotels and restaurants that provide, or how do you decide where to put them if they don't have family to go to?
We actually work through a direct financial gift. So each
So they get to choose where they go.
They do,
That's
and they get to
nice.
choose, what restaurants would suit their family needs, what's closest to them, and work within the parameters of their needs and what's available and convenient. And that's done through a debit card system. We call
Oh,
them
yeah.
client assistant cards.
That's
that way,
nice.
we can activate the cards quickly, and they are getting the help they need the fastest way possible.
Now, go ahead. You were
Oh,
gonna
no, I
say.
was going to say, and we were mentioning fires, which is one of our largest disasters that the American Red Cross assists with nearly 66,000 disasters a year, and the majority of those are fires.
Wow.
But one of the things that you may have seen the Red Cross in the community, we have a fire installation program, a fire alarm installation program, and we're out there and we're helping and we're installing these fantastic alarms to keep people safe and developing plans in place so that people have an emergency route to get out of the house, and just
Wow.
kind of thinking about if that
Prevention.
yes, prevention.
So you're spending as much time, or maybe not as much, but that's a big focus, is the prevention. What
Absolutely.
other kind of things you do? Do you give people like tips of how to avoid fires, or what other things?
Some great tips for you. You want to check if you do have a smoke alarm, you want to check those batteries. And people often think of, and we're pushing it as well, during daylight saving time. You want to,
yeah.
when you're turning back the clock or turning it forward, check your batteries, make sure they're working.
Yeah.
And, have that fire alarm, that smoke alarm outside of or inside of, each bedroom and by the
yeah.
kitchen. We have them in our house, by the doors, just as a measure. And you want to have that 2 minutes, be able to get out of the house in 2 minutes. So you want to practice that, make sure you have a meeting place. Don't heat your house with the stove in the winter or use candles.
Right.
Those are some other, things that you want to avoid doing.
How about those alarms when when they start to beep to let you know they need a battery?
love that.
But then you take the battery out and they still beep. We're like unscrewing the whole thing, which is not helpful, I'm sure.
And there are a lot of fire alarms that you can get or smoke alarms that you can get that have a 10-year battery.
Oh,
and I
wow.
think that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing is foolproof. You still want to check, but that's nice as well.
Now, do you find that there are more fires like in the winter or certain times a year, or is that sort of a year-round problem?
Yes, it is a year-round problem, but we usually do see an increase in our calls during the winter months because people are using, different ways to heat their homes. We're loading our outlets with a lot of space heaters and things like that maybe
Right.
some of our homes' electrical systems just can't handle.
Yeah.
And as we do typically see that, this winter was particularly a rough one. We had a lot of multi-unit apartment and condo fires, such as the one that happened Valentine's Day weekend in Ocean
Oh.
View.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
had, a lot of people living very close together. It was a very windy winter as well, and that
Oh,
seemed
right.
to cause some challenges with our fires. But we've seen it slow down a little bit, but it's still every day we get that fire report, and every day we're helping somebody right here.
Now, is there a place on your website where people can go that want to have a list of the tips, or how
Absolutely.
is that?
Redcross.org. You
Yeah.
can just go to redcross.org. We have, a wealth of information regarding the 5 lines of service and tips, and you're going to find out about our apps, which I know we're going to talk about later, but lots of great information.
Well, and what about people that want to volunteer, that want to help people in need during these disasters? Same thing, I guess, to the website?
Absolutely. We have an online application process that's very easy to access. When you go to redcross.org, there's a menu item called Ways to Help. As soon as
Oh,
they
yeah.
click that, they can type in their zip code, and everything here local pops up, as well as the
that's
online
good.
application.
That's great. All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about hurricane.
Yes.
Not only the coastal area that we live, but hurricane season is a long season.
It is a long season.
I mean, that's so what kind of things do you offer for hurricane? preparedness?
I think hurricanes are very real here. In my time in Virginia, we've had several, and I always hope for a less active season each year. But hurricane season is long. It runs June 1st through November 30th, and there are things that you can do. Again, we go back to that preparedness component, and you want to take a minute, everyone watching, create that kit, your hurricane preparedness kit. And some things you want to think of that, everybody knows. You want to have some food in there. You want to have 1 gallon per person per day in there. And you also want to think of things like medications, because if you have to evacuate in a hurry, you want to make sure you have everything in there. If you have young children, make sure you have formula and diapers. And also, we're moms, and I hear I'm bored, so you want to throw in like a board game or some games or something to kind of, you may not have electricity, so keep those electronics and a flashlight. You want to make sure you have batteries, a little radio, and I love glow sticks as another option for flashlights. Kids love them, and that's a great thing to throw in there as well.
Well, and because you're right about the prescriptions, like you said, the eyeglasses and everything. So what about, how sometimes, they always say it's going to come and then it doesn't. Like, you can get a little apathetic. Like, what would you say to the people watching, about don't let that lull you into a false sense of security?
No, and Willoughby Spit, I learned this from years ago, that I heard that Willoughby Spit was created by a hurricane, and I've heard people say,
it can go away with a hurricane.
that we're not immune to it, and I think that preparedness, you can kind of feel more comfortable when you're prepared and just have a plan.
Right.
And that's just very, very important.
All right, so let's talk about the app. Everything's so high tech now, and that includes the American Red Cross. So tell us about the app that you have.
We have a lot of apps, and you can even go to redcross.org/app, and you'll find our apps there. So
there's more than one.
App. We have several, but I'm going to tell you about the emergency app. But there's a hurricane app, there's a tornado app.
Oh, wow.
First aid app, great apps.
We have a pet first aid app as
Oh,
well.
wow.
Yes, which I think is important.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely important.
So tell us about the emergency app.
So the emergency app, I hope everyone watching is grabbing your phones. It will take you seconds to download, but there's just a wealth of information. If there is a hurricane, you're going to get alerts. If we do open shelters, or if we know about shelters, we'll put them on there if we're in that situation. You're going to find, Lori and I were talking, and my daughter, I had her playing around on the app doing their quizzes. Test your knowledge. See
That's great.
Yes, test your knowledge. See if you know about fires, what to do. See if you know what to do in a hurricane, or if you are prepared for a hurricane. There's also it has extreme heat quiz on there. So check out the quizzes. They're kind of fun. If you're somewhere and you're waiting, it's a great way to, kill a few minutes. And there's just a lot of great information. What else am I missing on the emergency app? There's so much on there.
There really is. And what's neat about it is that you can choose which disasters you would like to monitor. So you can look at, so if you're in an earthquake prone area, you can choose earthquakes. But if you are, maybe not so much here. I know we've had a recent earthquake in Virginia, but we're really going to look at those things: flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, fires. All of those things are things that you can set right here that are relevant to you. So it's a really, really neat program, and that's a great way, when she was talking about those quizzes, to keep it top of mind.
Well, this is great information, and we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. I've been joined by Kristen and Lori with the American Red Cross, and stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm Ann Farrell Tata, and I'm joined by Kristen Hatfield and Lori Powers with the American Red Cross. And our topic is public safety, and we're going to continue our conversation about disaster relief, but we're also going to be talking about some health and safety training. So thanks for staying with us. All right, we were in the middle of talking about the app, and I'm so fascinated by that. So when somebody goes, because I'm, of course, as soon as this show's over, I want to go and download the app.
Thank you.
So. Is there one Red Cross app, and then you said that you choose, like, I want to be alerted about disaster, or I want to know about blood drives, or is there an app for blood, an app for disaster? How exactly does that work?
There are several different apps that you can choose from, but as Lori mentioned, you can kind of be alerted to the ones that kind of pertain to you.
So if you did the emergency services app, then and let's say I chose hurricane, so it would let me know like there's a hurricane coming and it would
Alerting
start.
warnings and watches and that
And
kind
how
of thing,
often
yes.
how often does the alert come?
It depends upon what the situation is for the area. So if there's a warning or a watch, it's going to depend on how that pertains to you and where you live.
This is going to be really great. I mean, to put it like you said, to have it on children's phones too, so they can
yes.
know if they're out, at a soccer field. They'll know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, all right, we know we have a large military population here too. Can you talk about some of the behind-the-scenes things that you guys are doing for the military?
As you mentioned, Clara Barton started on the battlefield there with the military, and we're just a large military community here in our area and across the Commonwealth. We have a lot of patriotic people, and we do provide services to the military and to veterans as well. And one of the key points is the emergency communications, and it's interesting because I recently was talking about this component to one of my neighbors, and she was telling me how when she was pregnant, her husband he just retired from the military, and when she was pregnant with her first child, she had to call the Red Cross when she went into labor to contact her husband so that he knew that she was going into labor with their firstborn. So, and that's not, over the years I've had various calls that have been misrouted to me, and I've had to redirect them to the right phone number at Red Cross, but people that need to get in contact with their military member for various reasons, that they have that emergency communication. So we're able to assist with that.
So you're in touch with all the different commands and the ombudsman. Is that
Yes,
how they? So
yes.
you guys work together, and they probably call you to help with the family at home.
Absolutely.
That is so great.
We're also in various military installations or veterans hospitals across the Commonwealth where
you have an
we
office
do,
there.
We do different events, and
okay.
it may be a horticulture project or garden that we're working with, or it may be an ice cream social that we're assisting with. So we're out there.
Yeah. All right, so tell me about the pillowcase project. What is that?
Oh, that's a fun one. So I started out with at the Red Cross working in youth services.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is a really exciting program for me because it's where I started, and I just feel like it's so important to reach our young people so that we have preparedness for a lifetime, and we've got Red Cross and community involvement for a lifetime. So the pillowcase project is a disaster preparedness project. It's geared toward children in the 3rd through 5th grade. So the curriculum grows with the students, and what it is talking about the teacher and the Red Cross will sit down and we'll choose a topic, whether it be home fires or hurricane preparedness. Again, much like the apps, we have curriculum that cover all of our natural disasters. And the program is designed to educate why these things are happening. So it's great for science classes if it's right in there with their standards of learning. But it also teaches the kids how to prepare themselves for that disaster. So while while the adults are preparing the home and taking care of business, they're preparing their own. Kristen talked about bringing games and something for the kids. This allows them to pack for themselves. But it also provides a lesson on coping with stress during a disaster, because they can be scary.
Right.
They're
scary for adults.
They are. You've got news alerts, your app's going off on your cell phone, what's happening. And we go through some tips with the kids on how they can relax. And we call it the Pillowcase Project because they each walk away with a pillowcase. And the premise behind that is they're going to get a packing list of the things that they can bring should they have to evacuate and go into a shelter. So maybe a stuffed animal, a blanket, pack of cards, a board game, maybe a pad of paper, something to color.
Their phone with the app.
Right,
Yes.
something to entertain. That's right, something to entertain them, because if they are in a shelter environment, it can be stressful, but also can be pretty boring. Those are long days while we're waiting for the storm to pass and to get back to safety. So the premise is pack it in a pillowcase, that way you can grab and go. It's such a neat program, and again, that curriculum grows with them as they go through elementary school.
Yeah.
And the history behind it's a neat one. It came out of Hurricane Katrina, when we had some of our workers watching college students evacuate
Yeah.
across campus, and they had put their things in a pillowcase.
Wow.
So it really does have some deep roots in some
Yeah.
of our larger disasters in history. And
So is the pillow in there too? Or do they take the pillow out?
They-
'Cause, I mean, if they're in a
optional.
shelter, it'd be nice to have your pillow.
I can say that my kids have been packing for road trips just as a family in their pillowcases for
Yeah.
years, and they can usually fit the pillow and
Yes.
a few thousand more extra things in it. So, but it's a lovely program.
Yeah.
Disney is our partner, so when
Oh,
you do see
wow.
the product, it has Disney characters on it, so it's something
That's
comforting
great.
and fun that they recognize.
When so often, when the kids are sort of educated on this, they'll help the parents. Like, I bet the
Exactly.
kids
That's
know
very true.
more.
Exactly.
Very true.
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about some of the local aid that you guys provide throughout our community.
Okay, great. So here in Hampton Roads, of course, we work through all of our 5 core service areas. We're
Right.
doing direct disaster relief. We are doing our service to the armed forces. We're also providing CPR and first aid training, which we would love for every household to have that training. And that's, it's resuscitation.
Yeah.
It's basic first aid skills. We also teach our family members how to use an AED for sudden cardiac arrest.
Oh, wow.
And we work with our local pool and aquatics partners to teach water safety lessons as well as lifeguard lessons.
Do these cost money?
They do. There is
they're
a
all
fee for
different ones.
they are different
Yeah.
levels of training have different price levels, and
Oh,
all
yeah.
of that can be also found on redcross.org.
But it's important to note that when we are coming out for a disaster, those services are free.
Oh, right.
We're like that lifeboat to get you through that next phase.
Yeah.
And so, due to the generosity of the American public donating to the American Red Cross, we are a nonprofit,
Right.
and we're able to provide those services.
So, and these classes are not necessarily for the volunteers at the Red Cross, they're just for everyone's family.
That's right. They are available to everybody.
Yeah, that's a great thing to get someone in your family to train in CPR.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Are there different levels of that, or because I remember taking a CPR class, but it was a really long time ago, and are there different levels that you can keep taking them, or
There absolutely
is there
is.
just one CPR class?
We have a basic CPR and first aid response class, which is for a lay responder. So that's something that Kristen and I would take to help our coworkers and our family members. But we do step that up for basic life-saving services classes is for a professional environment in medical offices and dental practices and places like that, as well as professional rescuers.
Now, is there an age limit, or who can take a CPR class and be trained? Is it
We
like at
liked-
any age? I would not think like a 7-year-old maybe, but is there
Right.
like a minimum age?
The curriculum can be managed by middle school and high school students, so it is at a learning level that we can teach our students these classes as well. And as a matter of fact, in Virginia, all incoming 9th graders will be required to take CPR and first aid classes, and I
That's
think that starts
fantastic.
next school year.
So these are 2 separate classes. There's CPR and then first aid.
That's right. Typically, it's in a combination class, but
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
times some folks will take just the CPR and AED, but we recommend take the full class because it's
Right.
invaluable skills.
Right. So what kind of things do you learn with the first aid?
You learn.
Can you learn how to do stitches?
Not quite that advanced. but-
Quite that level of triage. Thank goodness, because I think that'd be too much for me. It is basic first aid, so it is wound care. It is how to call 911, when to call 911,
yeah.
and if there's a car accident or if you have an injured person, it's knowing when to move and when not to move.
Yeah.
So it is it's the providing the care while we wait for our first responders to get there.
Well, and do you have any like personal examples or success stories of people who have taken one of your classes where they actually saved somebody? I'm sure you have
I
plenty.
actually heard a story when I had to go to one of our trainings in the Capitol, and somebody that had taken some of the classes, the next day they encountered someone who needed CPR, and so it kind of took my breath away because they encountered this situation like immediately after. So it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And are these offered throughout Hampton Roads? Like on the peninsula and the Virginia Beach? Like where can people go to take them? And are they like at the YMCA, or are they at your headquarters? Where are they?
Both.
Oh,
So
okay.
we host them
Schools?
in our buildings. So we've got offices in Yorktown, Hampton, and Norfolk. But we also have community partners, like you mentioned, the YMCA and others who will host the classes as well.
So the best way is just to go on
Go
the
to
website.
the Red Cross.
Do they have an app? Do they have an app for the classes?
We have a great first aid app.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
What's
we
on
do.
the first aid app?
You can
Alerts?
find out.
Somebody's bleeding.
Well, you know, again, I think of summer, and you know, you have to be careful about heat stroke
Right. Or
sun
sunburn.
sensitivity. So there's
Yeah.
information on that and what you should do and how to hydrate and you know, different information. But there's a lot of great information.
So it's more like is it tips on
Yes.
preventative stuff as
is.
well?
Preventative, going back to that first aid app, it really
Yeah.
does give you basic information
Right.
if you have a burn.
Oh,
Here are the
yeah.
quick tips on what you
Right.
can do if you have a burn. So it offers just enough information to get you through those really basic emergencies.
Right.
You know, and of course, we just hope that will really inspire somebody to take that full class
Yes.
because that
Yeah.
is where the real life-saving
Well, it
comes.
does. I mean, I feel inspired to take one, you know, and also my children, because I think it's important for parents, especially if you have young children, but then for the children to be able to take it. Now, is there a minimum age for children to take the first aid class?
It really depends on their learning level
Yeah.
and maturity.
Oh,
You know, we
yeah.
don't have a hard set age. Again, I would
Right.
recommend it for that middle school, high school level. But with that app, if you have younger children, sit down with them, go through that. If you burn yourself, here's a great tip on how you can help yourself right here.
And you have the babysitting classes too.
We sure
I remember
do.
hiring babysitters that have taken the
Yes.
Red Cross babysitting class.
That's right.
This is I just appreciate you guys coming out there because I don't think a lot of people realize just how many services you guys have. So I want to encourage people to go to the website to find out, to learn more. We've been joined by Kristen and Lori from the American Red Cross, and we thank you so much for joining us this time and Join Our Town. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Join Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Join Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.